Welcome to Story Before Glory. My name is Ronke Adebajo. My guest today, Seyi Jenyo, has an amazing story of rejection, but then she found the Father's love. Seyi, it's lovely to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Love the smile.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, okay. So, the story of a father's rejection, how did that happen? From childhood, what happened?
So I believe that rejection for me came from the womb because when my mum...
That's deep.
It is deep, yeah. And funny enough, it's until I gave my life to Christ that I realised that that was the root of rejection, and that's where it came in, through my mum being pregnant with me and my dad not wanting me. So I feel like the rejection that my mum felt from my father is what translated to me straight from the womb. And
do you feel you experienced that going all along until a certain time?
Yeah, so I literally saw, rejection flow in my life all the way up until my adult years, and didn't realise that that was the issue that was doing me really until I...
Do you know, well, that's really important, because for me, what God has helped you to do there is capture something very, very important. Because, at times there could be repetitive patterns in our lives and you don't identify it. And you're not sure, why do some things keep happening in my life, until we actually know the root cause of it, address it, and then deal with it.
Yeah.
So you said you've had it all your life. Give us some of the scenarios or some of the instances you've experienced that.
In terms of rejection, so I noticed rejection from a very young age. So even after my mom had me, she married, and she ended up having 2 kids with the man she married, and the rejection came from always being called a bastard. And I think
he called you that.
He used to call me, especially when they had arguments, he'll say Omale, Omale, and obviously that translates to bastard. But I just used to wonder why I was always called that. And I guess as I got older, when I found out that he wasn't my biological father, it made sense. So that was an instance on where I, first of all, saw it play out in the natural. And then when my mother passed away when I was 8, I met my biological father, where I now ended up moving into his house and his family home, where I experienced another level of rejection because his wife didn't want me. And being the first child, I guess in a Nigerian culture, it's a bit of a threat, especially
she must have felt, maybe.
Who am I that I've come into their home? And so I experienced a lot of abuse in that household and lack of acceptance. When
you say abuse, give me, what were some of the things you experienced? Because I know you mentioned it was more like a Cinderella story, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I came in and, the promises I was given when I was told to go to my biological father's place was that, I'll be looked after. At the time, my dad was known as a wealthy man, so they used the possessions of what I'll get when I'm older by, staying there. But the mother of my dad's children just didn't like the idea of me being in the home. But I guess because it didn't make sense, I had nowhere to go. He had to take me in, he had to take the responsibility. So she used to, verbal abuse, always telling me that she's going to kill me. She used to strangle me, beat me, accuse me of things. I remember you saying
she used a rod, like
a
rod to hit you.
It looked like something like a curtain, what they used to hold curtains up to hit me with her own mum. And I think it's just they blamed me for stealing orange juice, and the reason why is because I was not given any food. So I was eating porridge every day while everyone else eat proper food. And so at that point I lost loads of weight as an 8-year-old girl. I wasn't eating what they had, so obviously when the orange juice went missing, automatically they think, oh, maybe it's me. But I was beat until I said I did it, even though I didn't do it.
Just, to stop the pain and the...
Exactly. Being put in a school where I was in a class full of people with disabilities. Also not being wanted. It was just so obvious that I wasn't wanted in the home. I was constantly told that she constantly said to me, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. And even when I wanted to call, the people that I knew as family, she took all that privilege away and I wasn't able to speak to anybody. And until I just said no.
This was here in the UK, wasn't it?
In the UK,
And the reason why I stress that, because at times we just assume things like this only happen in third world country in Africa, but this was right here, happening
right here,
in your face in the UK. I don't want us to just skim over that the fact that you lost your mom at that age, and what was that for you in terms of not knowing your dad and then your mom then, went off? And did you have any siblings?
So I have 2 brothers from my mom. So they went with their dad. Obviously, because there was so much domestic violence within that marriage and some unfaithfulness as well. My mum requested that whatever happens to her, she doesn't want me to stay in that family. So because her husband then ended up getting married to somebody else.
Right.
And she didn't want me to be there knowing that I wasn't theirs. And obviously already the way he treated me and not wanting me as his
calling
own.
You the names already.
Exactly.
Anyway.
She wanted me to be somewhere where I'll be fully accepted.
Okay. So you've moved from that situation with your mom, then you've then gone to meet your own dad.
Yeah.
Then you've then got that rejection, that abuse again.
Yeah.
And then where did you move to from there?
So when it got to a point where the abuse was too much, I felt like I was going to die. Literally, as an 8-year-old, I was thinking I don't want to die. And she kept threatening me that she's going to kill me, that I just literally I don't know where I got that courage to say I want to go back. So in requesting that,
courage can come at times when you suffer to a certain level.
Honestly, yeah, I agree. And I remember even before I left, they did a video of me saying I want to leave, just to show proof that I was the one that said I wanted to go back.
Right.
And I grew up. I was born and bred in Hackney, and so they took me back to Hackney where they picked me up from. So I went back to my mum's friend's house where they saw me and they were shocked at the state I was in, because the child that they gave was not the child that they brought back. I looked very malnourished, unkept, and there was a big argument with the adults, but all I remember is going downstairs and staying with my, I guess, family friend. So I just stayed with the kids, and that's where the journey of starting a new life began again, really. So
you then left them and you went into another family.
So
yes. Plus the fact that, just to reiterate, when you were with your dad, there was a DNA test that was done.
Yes, I remember going to the hospital one time and they were doing a blood test, and I heard conversations about DNA tests being done, and in my head I was thinking, I am his child, So I could tell that the woman was so desperate to not accept the reality that her husband's got another child from somewhere else.
But she had another relationship, another child from another relationship that was with your dad.
So she had a child already.
But did she move in to live with?
Yeah, they've changed her name as well to my dad's surname, funny enough. So she had her own children, but I don't know, it was just this idea of not wanting anyone that wasn't from her in the house.
Really.
She succeeded at getting me back out. So yeah.
So your journey you then moved in with
my mum's one of my mum's best friends. So she had her family where they accepted me as their own and decided to become my legal guardian. Yeah. It was nice for a few years having stability and started to feel the love that I was starved of for such a long time. And funny enough, even though I had love there was not the love that I felt from my mum was missing, because my mum loved me so much. But they embraced me, loved on me. And then I was there for pretty much my whole life until there was issues between my adopted dad and myself, and there was issues there where rejection came in once again.
I was going to say, so again, another cycle of what we're seeing. And I'm just trying to think from such a young age, the journey you've been through already, almost 3 families now, all the abuse, all the rejection that you've been through. What happened when you got into this family before you eventually went to uni?
So what happened is, as I got older, so even though I guess the Nigerian culture is they discipline children, you get your beats when you do something wrong, but I felt like for me, I saw that there was still a difference in the way I was treated, where if I did something wrong as a child, I would be told, you're so ungrateful, we took you in when no one else did. So I felt like I had to be this person to not let them say that to me over and over again. It's
almost like having to prove
prove my worth, prove that, I'm a good child. Thank you for, I felt like I owed them the world for taking me in. So, I was constantly like, doing all the dishes, cleaning the house, being very domesticated, just to kind of earn my love from the family. And and that seemed to be where my affirmation came from. Thank you, Seyi, thank you, Seyi. But it was just because I was getting love through performance. But if I did anything wrong, as a normal child would do, you're so ungrateful. After we took you in, I'm being accused that I go to school and tell people that I'm adopted when I wasn't doing that. So I constantly felt guilty and felt like I owed them something to prove that, no, don't worry, I'm so thankful that you took me when nobody else did. So I was very rejected in that way. And then he used to, physically abuse me to the point where he used to touch me inappropriately, to the point where...
What age were you? How old were you at this time?
So between the ages 14, it started with the touching initially, and rubbing my thighs and speaking to me inappropriately, to the point where by the time I was 16, he you know, literally put his tongue in my mouth and tried to kiss me and make out with me. And I was literally like, oh my gosh, what happened? And I realized that in me rejecting him, it caused even more hostility in the home because I didn't give him what he wanted. And I just felt so unsafe in the house. And, you know, because of that rejection that I gave him, he made it even 10 times worse for me to live in a home where
as I just if you're not going to give it to me, then I'll make your life hell.
Exactly. And, you know, calling my sisters beautiful and basically indirectly saying I'm not beautiful. And yeah, just a whole lot of rubbish.
Right. All this happened here in the UK. It wasn't in Africa, in any other country. So we just need to be conscious that things like this do happen to children here, you know, in terms of the reality of the abuse. So really for me, Cinderella's story is a story of reality for some children that we watch and, you know, the cartoon characters that we watch. Okay. So you then went to uni. And what was life for you in uni?
So in uni, what I found was the effects of my childhood started to play out in the natural. So just before I went to uni, there was a changing point in my life where I was the child who did good to earn love. And I saw that it didn't work because even by the time I finished my GCSEs, my grades were so good, but I didn't get the reception of what I was expecting. So at that point, I thought, what's the point? So in college, I went, you know, I started to join.
What's the point of being good?
Yeah, what's the point of being good?
Yes.
Exactly. So I just literally joined the group of people who were the cool people at school, you know, where I started to miss lessons, I started to drink, started to talk to boys, started to smoke weed, you know, doing all the cool stuff. And I think for me, it gave me this level of acceptance because all of a sudden I was accepted in this group of people and I'm thinking, finally, you know, and so, you know, that felt good. So that feeling of acceptance was just like, this is different from what I've been used to. So because of, you know, the change of lifestyle that I started to live now, I ended up failing my A-levels, which meant my desire of going to uni to escape my home almost came shattering. And I was just like, no, okay, whatever it took, I was going to uni. So luckily,
you need to get out of this place.
So luckily I did get into uni through clearing to do like a foundation course before going into the very degree that I actually wanted to do. But I still went to uni with that same energy of, I'm a bad girl, I'm cool, you know. So that's how, you know, I started to relate with guys and have different relationships.
Did you change who you were when you got to uni? Did you try to change your name or anything?
Yes, actually. So it's funny because it's only until I finished uni that I put my name to Seyi. I've always been called Elizabeth. So everyone used to call me Liz. So Liz was always related to my past. Every time I look back now, because people that know me from back in the day, they call me Liz. But it's when I finished uni that I had to change my name back to Seyi. But that was after encountering Jesus. So obviously, in the first 3 years of my uni life, I was literally raving, clubbing with guys. I was in relationships that was just ridiculous. It didn't have a title, but I thought I was their main chick, and you know.
Did that give you those relationships? Did that give you the kind of? Did you feel that it felt the love that you were looking for, an affirmation? And
So there were two guys that I you know, relate to in terms of my uni experience. So the first guy that I was with, when I tell you, he showered me with compliments. He loved me. He's like, oh, you're so beautiful. You got nice body. I loved Afrobeat. So literally he loved Afrobeat. So because I love music, we connected on that level. And I think for that, it made me draw more to him. I was thinking, oh my gosh, no one's ever told me I'm beautiful. Remember, I came from a home where I wasn't beautiful. So constantly, you know, embracing me. So that I ended up losing my virginity to this guy. And from that point, I felt like I was going to marry him. But then I found out he had a girlfriend. So, you know, that broke my heart. And then found out that, you know, eventually he, you know, ignored me. Exactly. And then when he left, there's another guy that was interested in me that was in my class. And he was very overprotective over me. Remember, I'm come from a place where no one really looks out for me. I didn't feel like I was anyone's priority. Oh, where are you? Liz, who are you with now? So that kind of, even though I didn't like him, I wasn't attracted to him, but that was enough for me to say, oh, wow, he cares for me. And that for me kind of, you know, opened the door for me to allow him in. And then I was in that relationship for pretty much most of my uni life. And that caused me deeper pain where he's sleeping with other ladies. You know, he didn't I didn't get the girlfriend title that I was yearning for. He lived with me. I ended up doing everything for him. I was basically his wife,
right,
quote unquote, but
yes.
without the benefits of actually being official. So it got to a point where I was failing my degree at this point, and I was just like, look, who am I? I didn't know who I was. And I realized that the pain became so deep that I was just like, I didn't know who I was anymore. Like, I had this thing in my mind from when I was a young girl that I'm going to make it in life. I'm going to prove people in life that no matter what I go
Especially
through,
because of what
I'm going to
you've
make
been
it.
through,
Exactly.
yes.
Then I got to a point in uni, I'm thinking, I'm doing the total opposite.
Yeah.
I'm failing. So it's at that point that I was just like, God help me. Because I saw that good didn't help me, bad didn't help me. So I thought, let me try this God thing. Because there was a fellowship at uni, but I never used to go because I felt like I'm the sort of person, I'm either in or out. I cannot go to church and be going raving the next day. I cannot be going to church. I couldn't do it. That was just me.
Yes.
So even though people were like, come to church, I just felt somehow doing this. I'd rather just stay in the world and just enjoy my life. So it got to a point where I was at the point of failing my degree, and I was just like, God help me. I was crying. I said, God help me. Like, I don't know any way out. I've tried it all. It don't work. I'm in a deep hole, and I don't know how I'm going to come out. So I had two minds whether I was going to drop out or I'm going to go for this God thing and see if it will help me. And that's when my encounter with God really started.
Right.
I remember, I think for me, I didn't really have a background of Christianity, in such a way that it was
From
obvious.
home,
Because my mom was a Christian before she died. But ever since then, going into different households, it wasn't something that was a core part of our, especially even where I got adopted, it was a Muslim household.
Right, okay.
So Jesus wasn't, something that you could
then,
say, So then I think I got to a point where I remember that my disappointment in God came from when I prayed to God to heal my mum, and she died. So I think for me, I just said,
especially as a child,
exactly. I'm thinking, how can you do that? So I now thought, let me try it out. So I did, and I went to my uni fellowship, and I literally just remember during the worship, I was just crying. But I felt a warmth in my heart. Like I felt the pain that I was feeling so deep just didn't hurt as much anymore. So I was just thinking, wow. So all I did, I was like, So I just said to God, like, help me pass my degree. That's all I asked. And all of a sudden, I decided to start, changing my circle. So that final year of my uni, so I ended up passing my second year of uni, which I was at the point of failing. And then I got into my final year.
And that was through you returning around and having that relationship with
God.
Yes.
Just that encounter of knowing that, something feels a bit better. So I, cut the guys off, cut the girls that I was hanging around with, stopped going raving, and I just focused on my degree. And though it was lonely, it was something that I knew that I needed to do. And at that point,
at times you need that separation, don't you?
This is it. It was needed because my environment wasn't conducive for the lifestyle that I was trying to go for. So that's when I realized I passed my degree, and not only did I pass my degree, I ended up getting a job before finishing uni. So for me, I was thinking, wait,
how did that happen?
What did I do? Because I was used to earning love. I was used to working for anything I get. So I was thinking, I didn't have to. I was at the verge of not getting a degree, and all of a sudden, all I asked was, I want a degree, and you gave me a job too. So I was like, I want to know this God a bit more, and that's when my journey began in terms of
excellence.
Knowing God.
It was a taste of what better things to come. And of how God just comes in at times, and it just turns things around in ways that we've never imagined. The healing process that you started off in Cambridge. Let's explore that a bit.
So that's where I got my job, in Cambridge. So I worked at Adam Brooks Hospital, and that's where my journey with God's really started, where obviously I'm on my own now, I'm isolated, and I've now found this faith that I'm just like, there's this feeling of love I have that I never had before. I want to explore more. I want to know this God more in such a way that I don't know where it was going to take me, but I just knew that I found comfort in this place. And as I, started to read my Bible, I found a church, started to go, my love for God increased, where I was just like, the pain was just getting less and less. And I guess God showed me that I need to forgive. That's one of the first things he showed me. And I was thinking, forgive? I was like, I've let it all go. It's like, you've got too many people you're holding stuff against.
Over the years, isn't it?
Over the years. And literally at that point, that's when I got this personal revelation of what Jesus did on the cross. He didn't do anything, but he took on the sins of the world. And he did. And it's like, if he could do that, who am I to say I'm going to hold on to the 10, 15 people that did me wrong?
That
when
has
he
to
took
be
the
a
world,
personal revelation,
and that for me humbled me, and it made me, say, you know what, God, I choose to forgive. And when I did, honestly, I slept that night. I didn't even know it was possible because it just showed me that I wasn't sleeping well. But I felt a peace and a weight that was lifted off my shoulder. And that's when my biological dad, a few months later, found me on Facebook.
Right.
I remember I said
because
after
you had changed back to your name.
So after uni, so this was part of my journey with God, where he was like, you need to embrace you, because I was living a lie. No one knew what I had gone through. No one knew I was adopted. No one knew that I had lost my mom. So I just was playing this narrative that I come from a perfect family. I'm a happy person. Actually, I'm a joyful person, but it was a fake joy.
Yes.
Whereas when I came into Christ,
a facade.
that's it.
And
you know,
a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You know, to cover the pain and the shame and the rejection and the hurts that we've gone through. Was that what made you go into, you know, writing your book about loved back to life?
Yeah, that's it, you know, because for such a long time, my life was a secret, and God, as I got closer to God and grew in him, he showed me that everything I've been through, he wants to use it for his glory, for my good, for his glory. And I think that was
the
difficult.
key word, for his glory.
Yeah. And, you know, honestly, I'm not going to lie, it was so hard to write this book because I've never had to put my life on display.
Yes.
But God had plans for it, because ever since I wrote this book, I've seen the impact it's made on so many people's lives. The things that I kept secret is what many people have been holding behind and holding in their hearts. And, you know, it just opened doors to setting so many people free and giving people that message of hope. So
it's making a message out of a mess. We heard that earlier on. And it's just taking that. And it's just made everything about your life beautiful. Before, just as we round up, I want you to just share with us concerning restoration and the love of the Father, because you've had rejection from about three different men who are supposed to be father figures for you. And then finding the love of the Father. How was that for you?
So it's been a journey finding love of the Father. Obviously, I always see that when I can describe God, I describe him as love, because that's how he revealed himself to me, because I was starved so much of it that he had to reveal himself as love. So that's hence why I called it Love Back to Life, because I was dead on the inside, but alive on the outside. My heart was in coma. That's how I used to always describe it. But his love brought me back to life. So it's a case where in my journey with Christ, I realized that there were hindrances. And those hindrances were the things I went through. So God was basically dealing with all the outside issues. So the things that presented itself in my behavior, my mindset, in the way I saw life, my perspective, it was because of what I went through that I saw life in such a distorted way. But it was affecting me from seeing God in his fullness. So God had to deal with the outside, you know, problems, the behavioral issues, the habits, the dysfunctional cycles. And then it got to the point where he got to the core of who I was. And I remember saying to God, God, I want to know you more. I want to know you more. And he said, I answered that prayer because the reason why that you're struggling is because the root of rejection is what's been stopping you from knowing me in my entirety.
And for me, the revelation.
Exactly. And it's almost like he revealed himself that he's my Father. That even though my father's failed me in the earthly way, he's always been perfect. But because my perspective of God always was parallel to my earthly father's, I was seeing God wrong. But he was trying to teach me who he really is. So he used the failures of my fathers to show his perfection.
Hallelujah.
I love that. And in that place, it literally helped me to embrace him more. And the journey of healing, of knowing his fatherhood, was first of all getting the revelation of what the problem was. So he got to the root. And from there, knowing that he wants to show me the opposite of what my fathers have been.
So you have comparison,
Exactly. So in reality, I had to walk it out. So even though I got the revelation, he allowed me to walk it out. So, you know, when I was, you know, about 2-3 years ago, he told me to leave my adoptive family home, because I went back home eventually once my adoptive father left the house to just move back with my mum and just be a support for the family. But then about 2 years ago, almost 3 in fact, he told me to leave the house. And in leaving the house, I was just like, I can't afford to live by myself. But he wanted to show me that I want you to practically experience me as father, as your provider, as your protector. And I had an opportunity to actually speak to my own biological dad and tell him, and tell him that, you know, what you've done, you really hurt me. I feel like an orphan, even though you're alive, you know. But in fact, having that conversation with my dad opened the door for me to now see my dad in his humanity and seeing that, you know what, he's only human. I can't allow him to be this person that he's not, you know. So it helped me to turn my direction up and no longer at him. So I was able to embrace God's fatherhood in its fullness. And I've just literally seen him provide for me, keep me, really sustain me, love me. Father, I've literally seen him do it in my life, like literally. So yeah,
Seyi
so
Jenyo.
I'm still on that journey, and
Yes,
honestly,
we're all still on that journey. I
yeah.
don't think that journey actually finishes until we go to the Father,
Yeah.
in a good old age, or if, Jesus comes. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing your story. And I think for me, the most beautiful thing about what you shared is the love of the Father. And
Yeah.
at times, with some people, the best approach is to start with the love of the Father by showing it to them, and then that begins the healing process from
Yeah.
inside out. And I think that that's what God has done with you.
That he
Thank
sure
you for being a
has.
blessing. Thank you for
Thank you for
sharing your
having me.
story. Thank you for the wonderful book. I pray it continues to minister
Amen.
and touch lives.
Amen.
It's been a pleasure having you on our show.
Thank you so much. I'm
welcome.
grateful.